Hariom Tat Sat. Good evening. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Akshurumilitamyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we're starting chapter 6 of Bhagavad-Gita. Chapter 6 is referred to as Dhyana Yoga, which translates as the yoga of meditation, because in this chapter Krishna will be discussing the Ashtanga yoga system. So the Ashta Anga system, Ashta means 8 and Anga means limbs. So the Ashtanga yoga system consists of 8 parts: the yamas, niyamas, asan, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So these first 5 angas are called the external parts of this system because they're considered as preparatory. Just like when you're cooking food, then you cut the vegetables, you get the pot ready, you clean it and so on. But that is external part. The real part is when the cooking starts. So the first 5 angas, which deals with like rules and regulations, then the asana practices, then the breathing exercises, and then the withdrawing of the senses from external objects. They're called as the external angas of the Ashtanga process because they prepare one for the real work of Ashtanga yoga, which is meditation. So the last 3 angas, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, are the meditational exercises. That is what actually the yoga tradition means by yoga. Actually, they mean the last part, which is samadhi, the complete absorption. Well, we'll get to that, how yoga is defined in the Ashtanga yoga system. So this is what Krishna wants to elaborate on in chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. Nowadays, yoga is a very popular word, and usually when the word yoga is used in modern times, it refers to, people think of the Ashtanga system, but they think of Ashtanga yoga only as the asana part, because that makes for very nice Instagram pictures. But the actual meaning of yoga in Patanjali's system, Yoga Sutra, the definition of yogas is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So he defines yoga in the first sutra, Yoga Sutra. The whole Yoga Sutras can be summarized in the first 4 sutras. So the first sutra says Ata Yoga Anushasana, which means now we will discuss yoga. And then after saying that, he defines yoga. Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. So chitta vritti, the word chitta refers to the subtle body, comprised of the mind, intelligence, and the ego. Right? So every one of us have a mind, can't see it. We have an intelligence, can't see that also. We also have an ego, kind of can see that. It's subtle, but comes out. So these 3 together in the yoga system is called the chitta. So when chitta means these 3 together, so any act of thinking or feeling or intellection whatsoever is an activity of the chitta, either the function of the mind, the function of the intellect, or the function of the ego. So that is the meaning of chitta. And the word vritti literally means to revolve. So the mind stuff is constantly revolving with, most of the time, just all sorts of nonsense. I think I joked about this in many classes earlier in the Gita. But as soon as you wake up in the morning, the mind starts. You go into the bathroom. You go into the shower. It's like nonstop going. Finally, you go to sleep, and then you dream. The mind is going in the form of whatever you're seeing in the dream. Finally, only if you get deep sleep, like getting anesthesia, then finally the mind shuts up for that period of time. And then as soon as you get up, so that is the meaning of the word vritti. Some feeling, some emotion, some thought, some activity of the manas, or the intellect or the ego is going on in your mind. I don't look good enough. I'm not good enough. Will this be successful? Whatever, going on and on. And this is called a vritti. So chitta vritti, all these, the chitta is like the ocean of this mind stuff, and the vrittis are like the waves. They just keep coming nonstop. Most of the time causing a lot of disturbance. Anyone feel disturbance from their mind? Like occasionally or like on the regular. So that is the vritti. So in yoga system, nirodha. Nirodha means to stop the chitta vrittis. Basically stop all the waves in this ocean of mind. That is the idea. A lot of times popular in yoga schools today is to say that yoga is for like connecting with your heart center and all that. Maybe that's part of the external preparatory work, but the real work of yoga is actually to stop all feeling, all thought. And the idea is that this is the third sutra of Yoga Sutra. Tadas avasthanam, what is that? Tadadrastum sarupe avasthanam. If you stop all the vrittis of the mind, tada, at that time, drishti, you will have perception, sarupe avasthanam, of your actual self. In other words, I think most of us are old enough to remember this, maybe not everyone, but when we were younger, when we had to watch TV, we had this thing called an antenna. And you had to like find like the perfect location of the antenna, so that you could see the show. I remember, this is kind of embarrassing, but if y'all remember the Power Rangers, so before we had a color TV in our house, we had like a black and white TV. And just to even see the Power Rangers, you had to find like the perfect angle of the antenna. Sometimes you like, probably the thing was like on an angle off the television, but you would figure out how to make it balanced. Yeah, got it. And then you would watch the show. But I didn't know what were the color of the Rangers. So I remember drawing them. I was into drawing when I was a kid. And I was like drawing like a brown Ranger and, and all sorts of color Rangers that weren't actually in the TV show. Anyway, so the chitta vrittis, the chitta vrittis are like the fuzz on the TV show where you can't see the actual show that's going on. But if you can stop the vrittis of the mind, then you can have perception that's like coming to the right frequency almost. And then you can have perception of the actual self that is witnessing all these changes in the mind. In other words, we normally think that we are those changes in the mind, but actually you are the witness of those changes. And the way that the traditions usually try to argue, they give a simple argument, is that there must be a difference between that which is witnessing and that which is witnessed. Because like if you see a fight going on, a brawl going on, then you were sitting there and you were watching the brawl, right? Like when we were in high school, that was one of the most exciting things. So, fight! And we would all come running over very excited. And then we would all stand in a circle. So we're like brutalizing each other, but we were just standing around in a circle, just like, we didn't have phones that time. We had phones, we probably would have pulled them out and recorded it also. So you're witnessing, that which you are witnessing, you are different from that. So in the same way, you kind of sometimes witness this brawl in the mind also, the mind and the intelligence. The mind is saying, do it. The intelligence said, no, it's not a good idea, bro. Slow down. The mind's like, no, it's all right. It's all right. The mind's like, you ever have this conversation going on? Sometimes you think you're going crazy. You're not going crazy. Mind is like that. Mind is like, if it feels good, go for it. No consequences. Intelligence is the faculty of discernment. So the intelligence said, nah, bro, just don't go for it. I was like, no, it's all right, it's all right. Just put your toe in it, try it out just a little bit. So I was just like, don't do it, bro. And then you're just witnessing that conversation. So in ignorance, the soul identifies with that. So he thinks that's happening to me. But actually, the soul is different from that. You're just a witness of that. So if you can shut down the activities or the vrittis of the mind, then the only thing left to witness is your own self. Right now, you're just witnessing the vrittis and getting all caught up in that world of vrittis. But if that gets shut down, the only thing to witness is your own self. And so the system of yoga, Patanjali's yoga system, Ashtanga yoga, is to shut that down so that you can actually stand in your own true nature. And if you don't want to do that, if you don't do that, then the result is you'll be absorbed in the vrittis. So the two options for yoga system. You shut down the vrittis and witness your own, kind of like your own glory, or you'll be absorbed in the vrittis. And how is that working out for everybody? Very nice. You like being absorbed in the vrittis? It's very inspiring, right? As we walk around all day sulking. I'm depressed. Just like when our Jamuna Bihari first moved to New York, and he was coming from sunny Florida area and so on, where people probably look a lot happier than they do in New York. And he said when he arrived to New York, he wondered if a national catastrophe had taken place because everyone just looked like moping around, you know. I can't even do it because I'm pretty jolly by conditioning. Everyone is walking around just. So he's like, man, what happened? Something must have happened nationally that everyone is so sad. Then he got to move here. He said, no, that's just how people are because of being absorbed in the vritti. And the mind just takes you for roller coasters. Very scary. It's like one of those roller coasters that just goes down. It doesn't go up in just one direction down. Sometimes it loops, but it's looping downward also. And if one, especially nowadays in this modern age, if you get too much absorbed in the mind, you can be taken into a very dangerous situation. I used to wonder as a kid how it is that people could become crazy. But as I continue to get older, I'm like, yeah, I see it. As I see the functions of my own mind, I'm like, I can see how I could crack, given the right scenario and the right attachment being pulled away suddenly and dramatically. It's very easy to crack if you're absorbed in the vrittis and the mind just taking you here and there. It's very dangerous. So the yoga system, or dhyana yoga, which is the name of the chapter, is the system for meditation. Dhyana means meditation. So shutting down the vritti so you can witness the self and witness the peace that comes with that. No more vrittis like this. So that is the meaning here of the chapter, and that's what Krishna wants to elaborate on in this section of the Gita. So we're going to cover verses 1 through 9. Krishna kind of introduces the subject matter. So this is the first verse. Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karoti yaha. Sen sannyasi cha yogi cha nani ragnir nachakriya. So here Krishna's anashrita karma palam means one who does not take shelter in the fruit of their activity. So when you do any activity, generally it's because you want the fruit of the activity. That's natural. You work a job, you want the fruit of that work, which is money. If you try to hit on someone at the bar, then you want to experience the fruit of that hitting on the person, which is reciprocation. So everyone in this material world, they work because they're attached to the fruit of their activity. Isn't we are also attached to the fruit of activity? Even I always joke about this. Even if it's something as small as holding the door open for someone, you want the fruit of that in the form of a thank you. And in New York, they don't really have that habit. I had to learn that fast. You know, hold the door open. They just walk right through. You're like, excuse you. I'm waiting. Thank you. Did your mama teach you any manners? So even something as small as that, we get attached to the fruit. I held the door open for someone. They should reciprocate. So everyone in this world, they work with attachment to the fruit of the activity. So here, anashrita karma palam means a person who is without attachment to that fruit of whatever work they're doing in this world. Karyam karma karoti yaha, one who is doing the work that is obligatory for them. And especially in Vedic culture, you know, they have strong, there were strong sense of gender. There were gender norms, and there were certain activities that were respected for each group of persons within the society. And this is called obligatory work or prescribed duty. And so someone is doing their prescribed duty, not because they're interested in the fruit of that work, but because they're supposed to do it. It's the right thing to do. So one who works like this, and Krishna's been talking about this person up until this point, the karma yogi, who is engaged in the world according to his prescribed duty, but he's not attached to the fruit. He's not attached to the sense of being the agent of the activity. The agent means I control the outcome. We're very much attached to that. I have to do this because I'm in control of the outcome. And we want to control the outcome so that we are then the rightful enjoyers of the outcome, right? I did it, therefore, you know, I kind of deserve that. That's the mentality. So we've been hearing about this person up until this point, the karma yogi. He works as he's obliged without attachment to the fruit. So Krishna says here, sa sannyasi cha yogi cha. He is a sannyasi and he is a yogi. So a sannyasi means one who renounces the fruit of work. That is a sannyasi. And a yogi is one whose mind does not dwell on sense objects because his mind is in higher meditation. So he says a person who works like this, in Krishna's opinion, he says he is also a sannyasi and a yogi. Na niragnya na chakriya, not one who lights no fire or does no work. Because lighting a fire refers to some of the ritualistic work that was done in the Vedic culture. So sometimes people renounce that work, thinking that anyway, now I'm spiritual, so I don't have to do that. Just like when people start to get into spiritual life, they many times, renounce things prematurely. Anyway, like when I was getting into spiritual life, the first thing we found out once we get a little bit of higher knowledge is like, okay, I got to throw out all my Lauryn Hill, all my CDs and my soundtracks. And I remember actually when I moved into the temple, I bought those times that we didn't have the phones and so on. So we had the CD like notebooks. I don't know if you remember those things where you could keep the CDs inside. So I bought a whole thing. It was like this big, I was like, I can't listen to Hare Krishna all day. That's too much, I need a little bit of variety up in here. So I brought my whole CD thing. Somehow or other, I ended up not listening to it for like 2 years, so I just threw them out. But I wasn't going to artificially renounce. So sometimes a person artificially renounces work, thinking that they're qualified to do so, that I'm spiritual now, therefore I don't need to do this work. Christians spend a lot of time developing this idea earlier. So non-niragna, so not one who lights no fire. That means they just renounce work prematurely. They're not a sannyasi. Or na cha akriya, or one who does no work. So like someone may sit down and meditate. They're not doing anything. Well, we know what you meditate on, bro. So it's like I often joke about this or kind of criticize. So they have this Vipassana meditation, very popular. Many of my not so much friends, but acquaintances, they do a lot of sense enjoyment, but they like to go for Vipassana meditation. And I said, well, what do you do? They said, well, 10 days, you just think of nothing. I'm like, bro, I know you ain't thinking of nothing. What you thinking about, huh? I know you just broke up with your girlfriend the other day, so I know you're thinking about something coming up. You're not so advanced with not thinking of anything. So Krishna has already criticized this mentality earlier in chapter 3, that a person who renounces prematurely, but their mind always dwells on their objects, then they are a pretender. Because we renounce, but we are thinking about that only. Just like sometimes, I always give romantic examples just because they're crystal clear. Most people have had this experience where they like break up with the love of their life, the one. They break up with the one, and then they say, I'm just gonna keep her out of my mind. Oh, really? With all that aversion going on in your heart, you're just gonna not think about it. Wow, you're pretty powerful. No, you're not. You must think about it because you don't have that qualification. So this person who is working in the world, but he is internally renounced, Krishna says he is a sannyasi and he's a yogi. Not the person who is externally renounced, but internally thinking about the objects. So this is very, and you see this also. We've mentioned this before in religious institutions. People who are in externally renounced positions, but then they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. So, because internally not renounced. And then you can be someone who is externally not renounced because you're engaged in the world, but internally you're renounced. So Krishna glorifies such a person in this first verse, which he's been glorifying this person throughout the last few chapters. But he begins his discussion on Ashtanga Yoga with, again, a glorification of this person who is internally renounced, even though engaged in the world. In verse 2, he kind of doubles down on that point. Yam sanyasamiti prahor yogam tam vidi pandava, nahya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. So what is called renunciation, you should also know to be yoga, the same as yoga. So he says sannyas equals yoga. These two are the same. Why? Nahya sannyasta sankalpo yoga bhavati kaschana. Because, O son of Pandu, one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. The word here is asamyasta sankalpo. So this again refers to what's happening inside. Unless you renounce internally, then you cannot renounce externally. Or even if you somehow renounce externally, it's only a matter of time before you're brought again to those sense objects by contemplation. As Krishna has said earlier on in the Gita, chapter 2, verse 62 and 63, Jyayato vishayam pungsam sangaste shupajayate. Sangat sanjayate kama, kama kodopi jayate. Krishna says, by contemplating the objects of the senses, then you get attached. That's what you call the one. That's attachment part that happens because you keep thinking about that object. You're like, I think I'm in love. That is called attachment. And from that sangha, Krishna says, kama comes up, the thirst to have that object. Like, I can't live without you. And they write songs like this also. And it gets wins a lot of awards. I'm like, man, they get a lot of money for this nonsense. It's false propaganda. Their whole song could be summarized in one verse in the Bhagavad-Gita. So if you're not internally renounced, then your mind must be thinking of objects of senses. Only a matter of time before that thinking pulls you back toward the external world. So Krishna says what is called sannyas is also known as yoga, because only one who has renounced the desire to enjoy inside, which is what yoga means, can actually be a sannyasi or a yogi. Otherwise, you cannot. So nowadays, in modern cultural scenario, people are fond of calling themselves yogis. I used to always feel uncomfortable with that because I read Bhagavad-Gita. I was like, I ain't no yogi. I ain't even innocent. Got all sorts of garbage going on up here. Of course, I consider myself to be spiritual. I'm definitely spiritual, but I'm not that spiritual, not yet at least. I'm on the way to be, a yogi. I want to be a yogi. It's a nice aspiration. But I'm not going to be so audacious to say I'm a yogi, because this definition, no desire to enjoy the objects. I'm like, practically by going to yoga class, the desire comes up. Because people are dressed very attractively in the yoga class itself. So you come in and you're like, oh, desire. You have to like go and face the corner through the asanas. And I don't know if you remember that when they would chastise us when we were kids, they would say, go and face the corner. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Somehow it was so humiliating to go in front of the class and just face the corner. So sometimes you go to the yoga class, you also feel like I have to face the corner because you get agitation just seeing sometimes. I mean, that's on us. That's not anyone else's fault. That's just on us. That's just to say that that's how powerful desire is. So it is a little audacious to call oneself a yogi, at least per this definition. They have lesser definitions, so I guess that works. So here, this person who is externally engaged but internally renounced is glorified. Now Krishna will shift gears into defining the beginning stage of this yoga meditation practice and the advanced stage of the yoga meditation practice. The beginning stage is called arurukshu, and the advanced stage is called arudha. So Krishna says, so this is verse 3. Aruruksha munir yogam karma karanam uchate. Yoga arudhasya tasyaiva shama karanam uchate. So for one who is a novice in yoga meditation practice, then karma karanam uchate. Then this karma yoga is said to be the means. So we've been hearing about karma yoga up until this point. So we don't have time to describe all the elements of that. But this karma yoga, which was previously described in chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, that is the means by which one comes to yoga. And yoga here means this meditation. Because that karma yoga helps to purify the heart and allows for that steadiness in mind. So mind cannot be steady unless the mind is purified. This is a side point. That is why expanding legislation will never be successful. In the modern times in the political arena, they're very fond of expanding legislation and fighting for different, that should go on fine. But if there's no program for purifying people's heart, then expanding legislation will be no resolution for the world situation. And we see the legislation books are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the world is still going down. What is happening? Why that is happening? Because there needs to be purification of the inside, the mind, the mental stuff, which is the problem. So karma yoga is as a means for gaining that mental purity. So for one who is a beginner on this yoga meditation, then karma yoga, the means of purification, is said to be the means. Yoga arudhasya tasyaiva shaman karanamuchute. But for one who is aruda, advanced in yoga meditation, then the cessation of work is said to be the means. Because now you're in the meditative state, like you've actually achieved high levels of meditation. So doing activity will break the meditation. So therefore, when you're in that high state, then you should stop these other activities because now you're qualified to just meditate. The reason we are said we have to engage because we can't do that. After 2 minutes of meditation, we get agitated. At least I experience like that. We do our japa in the morning. After not even like half a round, like, Hare Krishna, I'm like already agitated. I just said like twice the not even the whole Maha mantra, just like Hare Krishna immediately. So the agitation is coming, you're like, okay. Like no resolve, or you like look over some other meditators, somehow the angle that they're facing is irritating you. Like something like completely insignificant, you know, like doesn't even matter. You're like, why are you sitting at that angle? It's like blocking me. Like, should I go and say something? Hare Krishna. Nah, I don't think I should. Hare. So you're not qualified for the stopping the work. You got to do some engagement because there's so much impurity is that your mind is unstable. But if your mind is stable, then you stop the work. So then he kind of gets he speaks about what it means to be yoga aruda. Yadahi nindriyarteshu na karma swanushajate. So one who is not attached, anusajate means one who is not attached to the indriya artha. Indriya artha means the sense objects, sound, form for the eyes, smell for the nose, taste for the tongue, touch for the skin. So we're attached to some sense objects, some music, some sound, some forms, etc. So one who is not attached to the sense objects nor the activities to pursue them. Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi, and he has renounced all desire. No, don't need that. Then he is said to be at the high state of yoga meditation. I mean, you have to think about that is high. If someone can do that, that's impressive. You're not attached to the sense objects. Anyone here can say that? You're not attached to the sense objects? I'm like, not attached. I can say, what attachment you want to hear about? I'm attached to all the sense objects. And nor the activities to pursue them. No, I'm attached to that too. I really want the sense object. Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi, and they've given up all desire, all sankalpa, like determination for material things, like devoid of determination, not because of depression, because of realization. Then they are said to be at the Yoga Ruda platform. So obviously, this is quite an accomplished individual, whoever this individual is. So how do you go from the beginning stage to the advanced stage? Anyone here interested in making some advancement in yoga? I mean, sometimes he's like, I don't know, let me think about that. Because we're so in illusion that we think that our desires and our vrittis are like sources of happiness, right? Like we think that our desire for sense objects is a glorious thing or a beautiful thing. And we've kind of been socialized to think that way also, that just going after sense gratification is very nice. So when you hear about a person like this, you're like, I don't know if I would want to be that sort of person. Like, no, this person is peaceful, yo. He's happy. So if you are interested, then Krishna gives the formula in the next 2 verses. Or not the formula, he gives the indication of what you're going to need to do. This is a very famous verse. These next 2, very nice ones, also very practical in one sense. Udarat atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayat atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmanah. So one must deliver oneself with the help of the mind and not degrade oneself by that mind. So we have a mind, we got to learn how to use it. So the mind can help to lift up or help to take down. The mind may be the friend of the self or his enemy as well. So who here, without even hearing what it means to be a friend or enemy, who here thinks their mind is an enemy? Didn't even hear the definition. We just know intuitively. This mind is not a friend. Here it says, Prabhupada in the commentary, most commentators here is mentioning that the mind is friend. The mind that is detached from sense objects is a friend. And the mind that is attached to sense objects is an enemy. You know, let's sit with that one for a little bit. Because again, we think that what's wrong with a little attachment? It's just a little attachment. What's wrong with that? And of course, we give it all sorts of misnomers like love and so on. So what's wrong with attachment? If you can understand the problem with attachment, then you can understand that a mind that is attached is not a friend, or rather an opponent, an adversary, an enemy. So many classes we had about attachment, so I'll skip over that part. You reflect on that. If you can understand the problem with attachment, then you understand that a mind attached is very much deadly. It will lead to our inevitable unhappiness, fear, and anxiety. So Krishna said in the next verse, similar idea here, that Bandhur atmatmanas tasya yenatmai vatmanajita. For one who has conquered the mind, then the mind is a friend. The mind is in your control. So the mind, of course, always wants to get, it's like a dog or like a little child. Both of them are equal in a sense here. Just like the dog, they keep on a leash. And I've seen parents also keep the child on a leash. My mom, I also said she had a leash, but it didn't have any form. It was just a glance. It was a very effective glance. So when the child or dog wants to get out of line, then the leash is made short. And if the child's acting out, okay, you can get a little bit more space. Like that, right? So in the same way, one who's controlled the mind, you have it on a leash. The mind's getting out of hand, you just get back here. Usually the mind gets out of hand, we just go along with it. The mind gets some suggestion. Let's go and do this dangerous thing. Okay. And then we get into some difficulty later on. We're in Great Depression and misery. So one who can keep the mind on a leash, he has control of the mind, then that mind is friend from one who's conquered the mind. And from one who has not conquered the mind, then you live with enemy. Can you imagine you wake up and right next to you is your worst enemy? It'd be frightening. Like someone who was trying to like kill you or something, someone like crazy was trying to kill you, like have like post-traumatic stress disorder or something. And then you wake up and the pillow in the shadows looks like something. Every day we should be waking up like that. It's crazy mind. So you wake you can't escape it. So because the mind is there, better you make it a friend. Because it's not going anywhere. It's not like you could just like, okay, you sit down right here. I need some peace right now. I was mentioning this last night. I was listening. Anyway, when I was into Lauryn Hill when I was growing up. And she had this one thing, Lauryn Hill Unplugged on MTV. She had this one track called I Gotta Find Peace of Mind, you know. That was probably the lyrics of the whole song. She just probably said like a mantra. I gotta find peace of mind. I gotta find peace of mind. It was like the whole song was just I gotta find peace of mind. And I was like, true. Me too. Let me know how it's working out for you. And if you could give me the direction to go, I also will go. That was before I found Bhagavad-Gita. Then Krishna's giving me, you have to conquer the mind. Otherwise, you live with an enemy. Very scary thing. So last few verses here. So having discussed this, who is a person who has conquered his mind? So that is mentioned in 3 verses, and I'll just read them to end this section. So who is a person who has conquered the mind? So in 3 verses, Krishna indicates this person. So just in case you have any doubt, you think, no, I think I'm doing pretty good. I got the mind kind of in check. So let us see. Krishna says here, for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. Paramatma Samahita. It means he's already situated in samadhi or deep meditation. for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. I really try to meditate on dishonor. Like, how would I do it with dishonor? Honor is also hard to. It's like someone comes up to you and says, "You're absolutely the most beautiful person I ever seen." You'll probably smile and feel like inspired. But dishonor is really more hard to tolerate. Just like if you're in a room, I always say it's 100 people, and 99 of them glorify you, but one of them offers a suggestion of how you can improve your thing. Burning, boy, just burning with it's like this person is envious. The mind starts giving all sorts of things. I think I'm gonna block him on Facebook. Unfriend him on Instagram. The mind is such crazy. So one who can see all these dualities with equal eye means conquer the mind. Then the next verse, a person is said to be established in self-realization is called the yogi when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Jnana vijnana. Jnana vijnana triptatma. He is satisfied with knowledge that comes from the sacred texts and the realization that affords. That's what Prabhupada says here. Usually there's so many books out there to read. How do you know which one to read? They're satisfied with Shastra and the realizations that the sacred texts can afford them. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is called controlled or yukta. Kutastha Vijatindriya. He is Kutastha, always situated in the same position, unchanging. Vijatindriya, his senses are conquered. Such a person is called yukta, or one who is in communion with the reality. He views pebbles, stones, and gold as the same. So that's even a higher level of equanimity of mind, that you can look at pebbles and gold with an equal eye. And then the last verse, this is the hardest one. So the first one is kind of like internally you're situated equally. So the experience of hot, cold, happiness, distress, you just see it all with equal eye. Here, the objects outside you see with an equal eye. You know, pebbles, stone, gold, all with an equal eye. But the next one, this is the hardest one. And in fact, indeed, Krishna says this person is really high level. A person who a person is considered still further advanced, sama buddha vishishtate, when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with the equal mind. That's very difficult. A person who's an affectionate benefactor, and Adi, someone who's an enemy trying to harm you, you can see with an equal eye. That's special. That's something that's very accomplished. Of course, from our position, we'll say, but here, this is the level of establishment in the self that this person has. That he's just seeing the whole reality is kind of like different from him, and he's just witnessing it, and just sees all these persons just equal. So a person who is having such a mind, and they really qualify for meditation. So we should propagate this in all the yoga studios in New York City. And they will immediately chase us out. But this is the message of Bhagavad-Gita for a person who is who has adhikar, or actual qualification for Ashtanga yoga path. Therefore, we'll hear later on in this chapter, Arjuna is going to be like, I don't think anyone got qualification for this. This like high level stuff. I don't think anyone qualified for that. He will say, I think it would be easier to control the wind than to control the mind in this way. And he actually could control the wind. At least, we hear in Mahabharata, they used to have these mantra-fueled weapons. So some of the weapons, they could like fire weapons. Some of the weapons were like water weapons, and some of them were like wind weapons. So they had this ability through mantra to, control the wind to some degree. So that is much easier than controlling the mind. Imagine you like Storm. You know, Storm from X-Men. Anyway, this is a cultural thing. So she could make tornadoes. Well, her own mind, she cannot control. If she gets into a small space, she would have the claustrophobia. Okay, only if you grew up with this stuff, you would know this. But anybody who grew up with X-Men, they know this. And her own mind, she could not control. So that is that particular section. Normally, I have a questionnaire for everybody, but because I had to do a little introduction, I will stop here for now. Are there any final comments or questions? Otherwise, we'll take some reflections as I like to do. Before we end the class. Yeah.
I'm just curious if there's discussion about, so the person who has that vritti nirodha, they're seeing the self. They're seeing, but what are they seeing? Is it possible through this to see Krishna, Bhagavan, or is it only that one sees the unadulterated self as Satchit Ananda Vigraha?
That one. One cannot see the personal absolute without bhakti. So we'll hear that later on in Bhagavad-Gita. Bhakti aham abhijananti yavanyashtasmi tatuta. But what are they saying is also ineffable, because the soul is beyond matter. And so if you have to describe it, then you need words, which are part of matter. And then what analogies you will give, you have to give analogies that are also within matter. So how to describe it is actually ineffable. So it's hard to say anything about it. Therefore, Krishna in 225 Gita refers to the soul as achintya. So the soul is itself inconceivable, which means that it can only really be understood by sacred texts, by the revelation of it. So you see, like modern science, also they're trying to figure out what is this consciousness, because it's like that one annoying thing that they can't really explain so smoothly. Everything else they've been able to explain to some degree. They feel that way, at least. I guess some theistic person would disagree, but they feel that they've really got it tight. But when it comes to this consciousness, that still remains rather evasive, aloof. They're not able to actually capture what is consciousness precisely. So they will not be successful also, because at least per what Krishna says in Gita, it is achintya. Achintya means not being able to be understood unaided. By our unaided faculties, we'll not be able to get it. So what is it exactly is hard to say. The soul is innocence, and what to speak of God. So it has to be understood through the revelation of Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, like this. Yeah.
Well, I have another comment too. It's like we see, even in this short space of the last, like the modern day, 50 years, 100 years in America, all these yogis, and so many of them are really accomplished in certain ways, and then hand in the cookie jar, So what's that about? It seems like
cookies are good, bro. Don't try to act like you don't like cookies. Everybody likes cookies. To be a conditioned soul means to like cookies. So we won't say what the cookies are, but we all know what a cookie is. So to be conditioned to have the imposition of matter on our soul means to enjoy cookies.
So isn't it to say that their realization is imperfect, or it's occasional, but they're actually not situated in transcendence?
Yeah,
they're just, yeah.
Basically. To me, such persons are rare. Krishna will say this later on in Bhagavad-Gita. What verse is that? 7.3. I haven't called it in a long time. You know 7.3 Bhagavad-Gita? Yeah, how does it start? Yeah, Manushanam Sarhasheshu Kashya Yatati Siddhaya. Out of many thousands among men, one may attain siddhi. First of all, many thousands of men are not even looking for that. Out of many thousands who are looking for that perfections, one may get it, and out of many thousands of siddhas, hardly anyone knows me in truth. I used to be so bewildered by this verse because I used to think, what do you mean hardly anyone knows your truth? There's like a whole Hare Krishna movement going on. So many people know Krishna. And then when I, stuck around the institution long enough and I started seeing all the stuff that was going on, I was like, oh, now I get it. Hardly anyone knows Krishna. So, yeah, dude. It's very rare to. So we have to strive for that, of course. That is the purpose of human life. Just striving for eating, sleeping, mating, defending. That is available to the monkeys also and the pigeons. The pigeons actually have it better. I heard they can do like sex life like 26 times an hour. That's a lot. You gotta do like that. 2-3 times. You need to recharge. Sorry to get so graphic. I'm just saying this is what the world is after. They're calling it as pleasure. But that pleasure is available to the pigeon. So that's what we're going after. That is human life. Going after the same happiness that is available to the pigeon.
Who has it at a better level?
And who has it at a better level? We can't even compete. Not even close. The pigeon or the monkey. The monkey, as mentioned in the other class, they do without taking any responsibility. Like in human life, we really chastise. You have to take responsibility. You can't just have kids, and the monkeys have responsibility with it. So is that what we're going after? So we have to go after, even though it is very rarely obtained, but better to shoot for the rhinoceros. Now there are only 3 left, maybe not even now. They've become almost completely extinct. But there was the saying, Prabhupada used to like to say it, shoot for the rhinoceros. I guess they're really hard to get. So if you shoot for the rhinoceros, you're not successful, then no one will blame you because they're very hard to capture, it seems. But if you are successful, then everyone will go, oh, very good, you're very nice. So we should go for this perfection, even though it's so rarely obtained. Because anyway, what else would we do with our human life? Chasing after pigeon happiness, monkey happiness. That is the propaganda that's going on. Go after that which is available to the monkeys and pigeons, but they put some nice lyrics and some beat behind it. And we're like, yeah, this pigeon happiness. Yeah, monkey happiness. So nice. Yeah.
I was on the subway today. I couldn't believe now they have like one theme in the car, like
right.
advertiser. I was like, oh my God. And I'm a grown up. I can't look at this.
Yeah.
Everybody is being exposed. It's like, my God.
Pigeon happiness is very popular. Very popular. Anyway, if you keep good association with spiritually minded persons, then you can go fulfill the mission of human life sooner or later. Okay, yeah, Daniel.
So sometimes when you catch the mind, it's doing something very bad up there, but you catch it. And then you think you can think your way out of it. And then that's just, then the cycle just repeats itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's by purification. Obviously that would prevent this sort of thing from happening in the first place. So can you just speak more to that process of purification and how exactly, when do we get some signs that
improving? Yeah, the mind, it's we know. I think our habit is to try to, when we're having mental disturbance, our habit is to get more and more into the mind. So in Bhakti tradition, we say you should take shelter of Bhagavan. His topics about him are the name of Krishna, the hearing process, or association with devotees. That's very powerful, especially when the mind is going really wild. So I think the tendency is not to do that because we're overly self-reliant in the modern culture. So we don't do that. We don't do it enough. So in Bhakti Yoga tradition, if some mind is there, then immediately pull out the bead bag, start chanting Hare Krishna. And you keep it in there until the mind shows out. Don't take it out. As soon as you take it out, the mind will, oh, okay, good. Now we'll get some other engagement going. Or else you call some friend, some devotee, some person, saintly person, someone you consider spiritual. Say, bro, this mind, and they talk it out until it's quelled a little bit. Or you put in some lecture, you actually hear that lecture, maybe take some notes, something. And that's why you take shelter of your practice. I don't know, for these Ashtanga yogis or these renunciates, if they got into trouble, they were really in trouble. And that's why Krishna has glorified karma yoga above renunciation in chapter 5. He said, anyway, if these renunciates get into trouble, they have to take shelter of karma yoga to, again, try to get the heart to be purified. So basically the idea is to take shelter of your practice. In devotional service and bhakti yoga, there are so many nice shelters. Unlike these other processes, they don't have so many variety of shelters. We have hearing, kirtan, saintly people who are actually our friends. You know, and you can just talk to them. They're available. Stories, so many wonderful literatures. So instead of taking shelter of material energy, so we take shelter of these things. So then basically we have to increase our fitness for our shelter taking capacity. We have the ability to take shelter, we just don't do it. As soon as some problem comes, we just do something else. Or we try to like figure it out, and then it just gets nastier and worse. So we should build our shelter taking capacity muscles. By anytime some challenge comes, you take shelter of your practice. And we're just lucky in Bhakti Yoga, there's so many avenues for that. Otherwise, if you're a meditator, you can take shelter of your meditation. Or karma yogi, they may take shelter of some work until they get purified. So, like this. Okay, we'll take 2 comments before we leave. Anyone wants to offer themselves one reflection or comment before we leave? I always take 1 or 2. I'll call you randomly. So if anyone doesn't offer themselves up for sacrifice, then you will be called.
At the end of your session, you're talking about how Krishna says that to reach the highest level means that someone who adores you or someone who hates you, you feel the same way. And it's an underlying theme throughout many religions. And Jesus actually said, don't hate them for they don't know what they're doing. So that's what it made me think of. But really good book that I recently read about somebody who incorporated these ideas and like this lifestyle was The Surrender Experiment.
I like that. That's what we're doing also.
Yeah.
Surrender experiment.
He really embodied he surrendered internally, but externally he was engaged. And he talks about how the energy of the universe is what brought us here. To fight against it is like fighting against the infinite. Like the infinite is what brought you here. Why would you spend your life fighting it? So he wanted to just live in his little hut, being a yogi, meditating, and like things just happen to the point where he built a $1 billion plus company. But internally all along, he didn't want to do any of it. But that's the premise of his life was he surrendered to the flows of the energy. And the way that it ends is it actually, if anyone's going to read it, I won't say it. I don't want to ruin the ending. Should I say the ending?
Yeah, you can say. I doubt many will read it, but
the way that it ends is it all gets stripped away from him in like 2 years. Some horrible person like accuses the company of fraud, and he was the CEO, and it was all false. But he surrendered and let it happen, and he used his time instead to start writing books about his way of life, and now it's like he's a national bestseller in that. And he never sought to be a national bestseller, for his books. He just wrote it because he had free time and wanted to do it. So if anyone wants to read like a real life case study or like story about this, that everything that you were just saying is what came to mind.
Thank you. Yeah, so that may be a modern example. There are many modern examples. The surrender experiment. Everyone in this building is also trying this out. It's quite a little rough. Hold on, we want to see if there's any other comment. Anyone else brave enough to sacrifice themselves? Otherwise, I'll call us on.
So I thought it was interesting that in that verse where Krishna is saying that the mind can become a friend, when I actually paid attention to that verse for the first time, I realized that he says that otherwise it will remain the enemy, which means that that's kind of the default mode of action. So says that that's where we are starting off. And it's not a very nice place to start where the mind is 100% your enemy. Then you kind of like slowly convert it to be a friend. So I always find it very fun.
Yeah. Very nice. Someone is asking online, what is the meaning of conquer? Conquer the mind. What does it mean to conquer? So one who can detach it from sense objects. That was how it was defined in the commentary. And you've done well for yourself. And if you allow the mind to remain attached, then you will suffer. So that is the answer there. So we're going to stop there. Thank you all very much for participating, and good luck in transforming that mind into a friend.
Thank you.
May the odds be ever in your favor.